Hello, welcome back to Unraveled Ravings. My name's Wade, and I am discussing 2013 games, my top 10 2013 games. From what I can tell, 2013 was not the best year of games. It's not to say it's a terrible year. It's just that looking through these games, I usually go through the list of the year and just write down the games that I think warrant consideration. And when I was going through this year's games, if it's a game I haven't played and it's got a fairly high rating for as far as geek rating. So what I do is I go here and I'll sort by geek rating just to get an idea of what is the general rating for these games. Now I do kind of glance over here at the number of voters. I want to make sure there's enough votes to justify it if it's like a 10.0 rating and there's one voter. But I think they have an algorithm running that keeps it from including things with not enough votes. So to come across, but once you get um, like to page 3 here, and it's been a couple of days since I looked at this list. There's not much that pops up. I do take out all the expansions, so they're not going to pop up, but not much here tends to. I just don't run into as many. And if I did a thorough, like going through all 5 pages, wasn't there something I played that may have be better than the average rating? It's possible, but less likely. So my encouragement to you, if you're watching this video and you know of a game that you're like, you know what, this one doesn't have a high rating, I would definitely recommend it for that year. You should go check it out. Post something in the comments. I will definitely take a look at that game and I will probably comment on it after I watch a playthrough. Or if it happens to be one that I have, I'll comment on that. But generally, I think most of these games the rating tends to reflect roughly where they are overall. And then if I look at the board game rank here on the side, I can usually see how they rank overall. Your top 100, top 200 are probably going to be decent games. Although, once you get to the 100 to 200 area, some of them I like nations didn't get into my top 10, and I took a look at it and just didn't feel like it was worthy of what I would put in the top 10. I'm sure there are others who would disagree. So this is of course my opinion. So it's not the end all be all list. I'm guessing if you did 10 people with 10 lists, they'd come up with 10 different games on each list. So without further ado, let's get started. Number 10 for 2013, I have Firefly the game. And I really debated between this one and what was the other one that really I struggled with, whether or not I wanted to put this one on there. Um, it was Euphoria, Build a Better Dystopia, the Stonemaier game. I really debated that one, but I ultimately went with Firefly the game because it's even though it's an IP, and I don't tend to be a big fan of IP games, I do love Firefly. And when I played this game, it just feels like you're in the game. I mean, sorry, you're in the sitcom. You're doing exactly what you do in the sitcom. You're picking up and delivering things. You're trying to avoid the what was it? I know it's the Reavers, and then you're trying to avoid what they're like the Empire in Star Wars, but I forget what they're called in Firefly. It's been a minute since I've seen it, but the game is fun. I enjoy it every time I play it. Um, but that was my number 10 for 2013. Doesn't really add a ton to the hobby, I would say, except I would argue that is an IP that I thought was well designed into a game. And I don't recall an IP prior to this. I'd have to check the year on the Star Wars Rebellion game. I can't remember when that came out, but um, there weren't. I think the vast majority of IP games that I'm familiar with prior to 2013, it tended to be like, oh yeah, you're making money off of the name. It's not really a great game. So Firefly, the game, I thought was actually a good game and included a great IP. That's my number 10. Number 9, this one I wrestled with because Caverna, the Cave Farmers, is my number. It's my number 9 for the purposes of this list. I debate it because it's like Agricola 2.0, and I really think Agricola kind of does the things that Cave Farmers does, just slightly differently. I would say I'm mainly including it as my number 9 because it does have a very high rating, and I should caveat I have not played Caverna. I've played Agricola. I've played Reichholt, which is a little bit kind of Agricola, but Agricola light maybe. Um, Caverna I have not played. I wouldn't mind trying it out someday. I like Uwe Rosenberg games, sort of, but he's not my favorite designer. I do have a Feast for Odin, so I think that one's pretty good. That's probably, in my opinion, one of his better games. I don't think I have another one. If I was going to get another Uwe Rosenberg game, it might be Agricola. I don't know. I might consider Hauertal. But Caverna, it's clearly popular among those that like Uwe Rosenberg. It's ranked number 38 overall. I feel like it deserved a place here. It's just my number 9 for this year, as opposed to being higher, or in this case, number 2, based on BGG here. Uh, so moving on, number 8, I put Glass Road. I believe this is another Uwe Rosenberg game, if I'm not mistaken. And it sure is. And I would argue that this is like, I called it Agricola Light. So I wouldn't say this is as light as Reichholt, but I would argue that it's not as heavy as Caverna from what I can tell. Again, this is one that I haven't played personally. I kind of feel like this might be on BGA, so I might need to try it sometime if it is. But just watching Rahdo's playthrough and comparing Caverna and this, I liked this one a little better, and I forget what it was. I think it was the way there's a little bit of you're trying to anticipate what other players might do and how that can impact your game. And I liked that, and I thought that was a slightly unique feature, which is why I gave Glass Road a bump ahead of Caverna. And I don't know that you don't do that a little bit in Caverna, but in Glass Road it seemed like a little bit more significant to the gameplay. And so, Glass Road. And I've heard good things about this game. So I felt like it warranted a place in top 10 for this year. I think even in 2022, when I've heard folks talk about playing Glass Road for the first time, they enjoy it and comment on it being a good game. So I think it is one I'd love to see at the table one day and play and try out. For now, it's just going to be my number 8, and maybe if I get a play in later, it possibly can go up. All right, number 7. Lewis and Clark, The Expedition. This is, I've debated off and on trading this game because it doesn't get a lot of play, but as time has gone on, I've probably owned this game for 3, 4 years now. And even though it's not one of my, it's probably not, I don't even know if it's in my top 20, but it does have a unique feel to it. So some things I like about this game are it's got the historical text, flavor text written on the cards, which I think is fantastic. I like how they try to theme the cards, where they kind of do something in the game that seems to flow thematically with what that person was historically. Some of it's probably a little forced for sure, but it's very interesting. It's to see kind of a deck building race resource management game, which is what this is. I mean, ultimately, you're racing down a river, trying to move spots. Some spots you have to cross that are mountains and require a certain type of transportation. Some are, I feel like there's something other than mountains, like waterfalls or something, and that requires a different type of transportation. And then you have the regular river spots, and your goal is to get from point A to point B on the map and be the first one there. That's ultimately the race. And you're doing that through resource management and deck building to a large degree. You're adding cards to your deck of cards, and those cards are going to help you race better as you go along. And how you manage that is what's going to either help make you stall out on the river, possibly make you go backwards if you don't manage your resources well, or get you just further along at a faster pace. So it's a really creative game. I find the way the resources are managed, there's something, and if I spent more time thinking about it, I'd probably put my finger on it better, but something slightly clunky about how you add the canoes and then can put resources in them. But that is a minor complaint, and I'm really nitpicking. It's not a bad game. I do think that since 2013, there are probably other games that kind of do these things better, but I don't know that any one game does it quite the same as Lewis and Clark and the way Lewis and Clark does it. And I have a soft spot in my heart for games that have some historical uh, component to them. I tend to want to hold on to them and enjoy playing them just because it's fun to read some of the historical bits and pieces on there. So it's Lewis and Clark, my number 7. And going on to number 6, we have another game that I haven't really played, but I am actually currently playing on Board Game Arena. Russian Railroads, ranked number 4 this year overall, but I ranked it number 6 in my ranking. And I watched a playthrough, and I'm just getting we're at the very beginning of the game, so I don't really know a ton about this game except its action selection and worker placement. But just looking at the game, it looks like it has a not bad 2022 feel to it. It doesn't look like a game that came out almost 10 years ago. So I feel like for 2013, this game seems like a little bit ahead of its time as far as look and feel, and looks like it had some nice components with the initial game. Little railroad track pieces look pretty cool. So, but the game itself is still ranked pretty highly, 7.5 overall. So I feel like that it's held its own over the last 9 years. So it warrants a reasonable spot in the list. And I think it was better as a game overall. To me, it seems like a better game than Glass Road or Caverna, from what I can tell, and in my opinion. And even though I don't know that it did anything entirely new, the weaving together of the action selection and the worker placement aspects, um, I don't know how many games kind of did it quite as well as Russian Railroads did it at this point in the board game, our board game history. So um, there's probably some argument for that. So if you have a suggestion or a game and you're like, hey, wait a second, there's this game in 2011 that did this, you should look at it. Put it in the comments. I'll take a look at it. Again, I'm rating 2013, so if it was a couple years before this, I might have missed it, and I started doing the top 10 lists back in 20, or I started with 2012, rather 2012. So I haven't gone further back than that. I just arbitrarily picked 10 years back to do the first top 10 list. So if there's another year back there, you're like, you should really do one for this year, post it in there. I'll take a look. I would not mind doing that. All right. That is my number 6, Russian Railroads. Number 5, Concordia. I've played this a couple times. I think I've played it with expansions. The times that I have played it, you can see my rating here, 8.65. I think it's a good game. Um, I didn't realize it came out in 2013. I actually would have thought it was newer than that. It has an old look to it. It's kind of got that Euro-y look to it that isn't terribly exciting, but it is a good game. And just the trying to anticipate what other players are trying to do. Get out on that map, get your boat out, get your traveler out, and get those restore stations built. I'm probably calling it the wrong thing, but building up your empire, your trade empire. It's a great game, and I would play this again. I like it. I want to say I think the very first time maybe I did. No, I played with expansions, at least one, if not two, the first time, and then we played with at least one expansion the second time. And I think it's a game that probably is helped by having an expansion as opposed to just the base game. But it doesn't seem like a game that couldn't be played as a base game, and it might be more not quite filler, but close. I don't think it would take terribly long to play just the base game without extras added in. But a lot of fun. Concordia was a great game. I mean, it's easily, arguably, uh, could be the best game of that year. Probably these next from five up to one could all maybe there's an argument for each one of them to be in the top place. But for me, Concordia was my number five. All right, number four. And I wonder if this one will be, I don't know if this one will, how many will agree with this. There's probably quite a few who may not even have played this one. Rococo. I did not know Rococo came out in 2013, and it I guess was produced a little bit and then went out of print. It was probably maybe around 2018, 2019. It came on my radar, and I watched a playthrough of Rococo, and I thought this is a fantastic game. This looks great. I really like to get a copy of it, but it was out of print, and the copies I saw were running $300 ish to get a copy, which was more than I was going to spend on the game because I like to play my games. I'm not just putting them on the shelf to collect them. Um, and then Rococo Deluxe came out, and it was probably one of the first games that I ever spent over $100 on a game on, because it was just I really wanted it. I had been on my wish list for a couple of years, and the deluxe version came out, looked upgraded. To be honest, I like the art for the old one a little better, but I do like Ian O'Toole, and his art is fantastic. Um, it's something about the original art I just liked a little better. But the new one is good. The upgraded one's great. It's got the nice little like sewing. You got your thread, and you have the little pieces. The queen's thimble is like a gold thimble, and then the lace is really cool looking. What really makes Rococo a neat game to me is the hand management, where you're gonna pick up. So you have your whole deck of cards at the beginning of the game, and then you're going to select three that are going to be these are the three cards you're going to use for that round. And there are three different levels of cards. There are the apprentices, which have the most powerful bonuses but can do the least number of actions in the game. Then you have your intermediate dressmakers, and they have slightly less powerful bonuses, but also can do more actions. And you have the masters, who have at the beginning of the game no bonus, and definitely the least powerful of the bonuses that are obtained during the game, but they can do every action in the game, including hiring new workers. We've got number three. So Rococo was my number four. My number three is Eldritch Horror. Now I've never played this. I have, I think, played. Um, oh, I can't remember the name of the game. Ugh, it's not Eldritch Horror. uh, Very popular game, deck building. Um, well, it's not really deck building, but it's like a living card game. It's just not coming to my mind right now. But Eldritch Horror is kind of set in the same Lovecraft universe. But this is a board game. One thing I really like about this, it's up to 8 players, which sounds really neat, and it reminds me a lot of like Robinson Crusoe. And I've watched a playthrough of this and just seen like how you have the event cards and just all these almost Mysterium-like things you're trying to put together in order to work your way through the story and defeat the elder god, keep that elder god from encroaching on the world. But it's really it's a unique game to me, or from what I can tell, it seems to have a unique place. I can see why folks who have played this game would love it. The theme is not as much one that I would chase after, although I don't think it's bad. I have Robinson Crusoe, so I am less likely to probably pursue a game quite like this. Eldritch Horror, I would love to play sometime. I think it'd be fun to sit down and try this one out. Um, but it does make my number three this year, which actually it's ranked number three for the year. But I think it looks like a really unique, has a nice place in the board gaming hobby, and it ranked number 97 overall. So it holds a pretty high place. I think it's probably going to fall out of the 100 here. I wouldn't be shocked to see. I don't know about Russian railroads. I don't know if there's a whole lot here I would see going up above it, but I like it. Number two, viticulture, currently ranked 234, and this is viticulture. I don't know if Tuscany and Essential Edition and all that. This is viticulture, so maybe if you look at those in particular, those are ranked higher, possibly. When I think of viticulture in this sense, like I probably won't ever include the expansions in future lists that I'm doing here. I tend to just do the base game, and viticulture holds a very prestigious place, I think, in the worker placement uh, mechanic in board gaming. A lot of people love viticulture. It's well designed, it's pleasant to play, it has a nice theme built into how all those things work together. I have this game and have I think all the expansions added on. I didn't get the most recent one that has the co-op. To me, this isn't a game that needs a co-op. I don't really have any desire to play this co-op. That's not to say I wouldn't play if somebody sat it down on the table in front of me, but I just would not pursue it. But the game itself is a lot of fun. It's a great game. Every time I get to the table, and I love playing at 5 and 6 players. I know it takes a while, it's long, but I have a blast every time I play. So hey, I'll take 6 players. I don't think I'm good at the game. I lose almost every single time I play. I think I might have won one game that I've ever played. Um, I'm not very good apparently at making wine, but I do enjoy it and have fun every time. So viticulture makes the number two, partly because I think it is a great game, partly because I think it holds a really high place in the worker placement mechanic features of board gaming. And lastly, number one, and this is going to be I don't know, people might disagree with this. I haven't even played this game. But I watched a playthrough a couple of times because I wanted to make sure I felt good about this. But when I watched this, I thought, man, this is a great two-player game. Hanamakoji. I will probably be adding this to my collection at some point. Um, it's just it's so, it looks like a phenomenal, um, reminds me a little bit of like Air, Land, and Sea. Air, Land, and Sea is a two-player game that the more you get to know the cards, the more tension there can be between what is going to be played. Once you know all those cards that could be in the deck and what they could be doing, it adds some tension. And I think Hanamakoji is very similar. The way you play when you have 2 players who don't know what they're doing versus 2 players who have played the game 10, 15, 20 times, I think that tension changes over time, and it looks really good. It seems very well designed. I can't wait to play this at some point. But Hanamakoji just seems like a phenomenal game. I gave it the number one spot for 2013 because I think that probably it might even start to go up in the overall number here. We got 220 here. I will be shocked if that doesn't start rising over time. I don't know if it'll ever get in the top 100, but I would not be shocked to see Hanamakoji end up, say, around 100, hovering around 100 at some point down the road. Um, But yeah, it's a great two-player game. There's a few two-player games. I think the last list I did, Targi, is one that I will probably rise up the ranks, because it's just nice to be able to sit down and play a game that's quick. It's probably, I think Hanamakoji's in a small box. Get it to the table, get it out, play it, have some nice, fun, tense decision-making choices, and then put it away. And hey, you've passed the time if you were waiting in line somewhere or you just needed something quick to play. I don't even think it's a bad game probably to introduce to somebody who is not used to games. Hey, try this one out. This is a fun card-based game. It's not hard to set up, not hard to take down. So that's Hanamakoji. Um, so yeah, if you have comments, please post them. Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and what games do you think I left out of this 2013 list that you would have definitely included. I noticed there's some that are fairly high. Nations, Bora Bora. These are higher, fairly highly ranked, I guess, compared for that year. I haven't played either of those. Forbidden Desert I've played, but I didn't feel like that warranted a top list. Sushi Go I've played, but I didn't think that was a top 10 for the year. But yeah, let me know what you think. I'd love to hear, um, if you disagree or you think something should have been higher. What are your thoughts on that? Thanks for joining me for the 2013 top 10 list. Thanks for watching my Unraveled Ravings, and until next time, have a great day.